Hello everyone, I am CA Pratik Badani and in this video we are going to quickly revise the basic concepts of income tax, that is chapter 1. So firstly, to develop the nation, the government needs two things, that is power and money. The power comes from the constitution and money can come from three sources, that is government's own business or taxes or borrowings. We are concerned about taxes. What are taxes? Taxes are nothing but money charged by the government on products or income or activity to meet the common welfare expenditure. Taxes can be of two types: direct tax, for which the main example is income tax, and indirect tax, for which the main example is GST. Okay, direct tax is charged on income or wealth, whereas indirect tax is charged on goods or services. In direct tax, the incidence cannot pass, means you cannot recover the direct tax from any other person, whereas in indirect tax, the incidence passes to the end consumer. It means by selling the goods or service, you can recover the indirect tax from another person also. Then direct tax is a progressive tax, means the rich are taxed more but the poor are taxed less, whereas indirect tax is a regressive tax where even Mukesh Ambani or myself both have to pay the same tax on this particular pen. Okay, next we'll come to the constitution. In constitution, there is firstly article 265 which places a restriction which says no tax can be levied by the except for the power of law. Then where does the law come from? Article 246 has the 7th schedule in which there are three lists: union list, state list and concurrent list. In the union list there is an entry number 82 which gives the power to the central government to levy income tax on income other than agricultural income. Okay, next. Then I told income tax law is not equal to income tax act. Income tax act only is a part of the income tax law, whereas income tax law has five major components. First component is the Income Tax Act, which was passed in Parliament in the year 1961 and it came into force from 1/4/1962. Income Tax Act has chapters, it has sections and it has schedules. What are chapters? Chapters are nothing but a group of sections. What are schedules? They are schedules which contain some additional information. Now let's come to sections. What are sections? There are totally 298 sections in income tax law. Sections are usually parts, okay, of the act. Now section can contain subsections, then clauses, then subclauses, provisos, explanations, etc. Usually when we read a section, we first say the section number, then subsection, then clause, then subclause. But when two subsections are not related to each other, they are directly called as clause. So in that case we say section, clause, subclause. I gave you the example of section number 2 which contains definitions. So usually whenever we are telling section number 2, we tell section number 2 and directly we tell clause 31. Okay, but whereas for sections, for example section number 6, we tell section number 6 subsection 1 clause 2. Okay, so usually section, subsection, clause, subclause. But when the two subsections are independent of each other, they are not related to each other, they cannot be called as subsections, they are directly called as clause. Okay, so subsections are related to each other but clause are independent of each other. Then subclause is a subpart of a clause. Provisos contain certain exceptions or some conditions and it usually starts with the word provided. Then we saw explanation. Explanation is nothing but clarification given in the income tax law. We saw the example of section 2 clause 31 explanation about the AOP and BOI. Okay, then we will see. Then we saw Annual Finance Act. Annual Finance Act is the second component of the income tax law. What is the purpose of the Annual Finance Act? It is passed in the parliament every year, okay, and during the time of the budget a bill is introduced in the parliament and later on it is passed. It is passed to amend the sections of the income tax law. But can only the Finance Act amend the income tax law? The answer is no. There can be other laws as well, like the Taxation Laws Amendment Act. Okay, then Income Annual Finance Act has four parts. Okay, Part 1 gives the rates of the current assessment year. So in the current assessment year, what are the tax rates are given in the part 1. Part 2 gives the TDS rates for the current assessment year. In the current assessment year, what are the tax deduction at source rates. Part 3 gives the advance tax rates and the TDS rates for salary. Now since the advance tax and TDS rates are for the current assessment year, that is the running year, this part 3 is going to become the part 1 of the next year. Then there is also a part 4 which contains rules to compute the net agricultural income. Okay. Next we saw income tax rules. Income tax rules are given by the CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes, which we also call Income Tax Department, and rules are given to carry out the purpose of the act. Okay. Then we saw circulars and notification. Circulars are passed by CBDT. Okay. But notifications can be passed by central government also, CBDT also. What is the use of a circular? Via circular, CBDT clarifies some doubts or solves some problems. Whereas in notification, if CBDT issues notification, it is to make or amend the rules, whereas central government gives notification to implement the provisions of the act. Then circulars are usually binding only on the CBDT but not on the assessee. Hence, assessee can take the benefit of the beneficial circulars. Okay. Then notification is binding on everybody. So everybody has to compulsorily follow the notification. Next we saw decision by courts. Decision by courts also play a major role because they give clarification about the various interpretation of sections. So if there is a Supreme Court and there is a decision, that decision is applicable to the entire country and the entire nation has to follow the verdict. Whereas if a decision is given by the High Court, it is applicable in the entire state, and if a decision is given by a judiciary body lesser than the rank of the High Court, then it is applicable only to that particular person. I hope you get my point. Next. Let's come to steps to calculate total income and taxes. So first step, determine what type of a person that assessee is. If it is a company or firm or LLP, because tax rates change based on the person. Next, step 2, determine whether the person is a resident or not. Step number 3, take all the income and classify the income into 5 heads of income, namely salary, house property, profit and gains of business or profession, capital gains, and income from other source. Step number 4, you should not consider any exemptions and you should reduce the deductions to calculate the income. Step number 5, if any income of some other person is to be clubbed in the hands of the assessee, then that income is to be clubbed. I gave you example of minor. Then step number 6, set off or carry forward of losses. If any loss is there, you should set off or carry forward it to the next year if it cannot be set off. After doing all the 6 steps, you will get gross total income. From this gross total income, you should further deduct chapter 6A deductions, after which you will get the total income. On the total income, you have to apply the tax rate. Tax rate can be normal tax rate or special tax rate. Okay, after applying the tax rate, you should also add the surcharge and reduce marginal relief if any, or reduce the 87A rebate. Can surcharge and rebate come together? The answer is no. Surcharge and rebate will never come together. Then step number 10, add the health and education cess at 4%. Then step 11, if there is any tax which is already paid, you have to reduce that tax. That is advance tax, TDS and TCS should be reduced. Finally, you will get the tax payable or tax refundable. After finding all this, with the required information, you should file the return of income, that is step number 12. Okay, so these are the steps to calculate the total income and to find out the taxes. Now let's come to chapter 1B, where we discuss the basic concepts. Okay. Okay, firstly, we saw section number 4, which speaks about levy. Income tax is levied on the total income of the previous year of every person. From the word total income comes the income concept. So in the income concept, we learned that income can be a regular income or it can be a casual income. Income refers to the net income and not the gross receipts or not the turnover. Okay, income can be a due basis or receipt basis. It depends on case to case basis. Then we saw the concept of capital receipt versus revenue receipt. Capital receipt is never taxable unless it is provided in the act, but a revenue receipt is always taxable unless it is exempted from the act. Okay, capital receipt arises from fixed capital, revenue receipt arises from circulating capital. Capital receipt is comes from transfer of capital assets, whereas the revenue receipt comes from transfer of the trading assets. Capital asset is a source of income. So when you sell the source, you will get the capital receipt, whereas revenue receipt is not the source of income, it is the income from the source. I gave you example of rent from the house. Then capital receipt is not in the ordinary course of business, whereas revenue receipt is in the ordinary course of business. In capital receipt, the purchase is not made with the intention to resell, whereas in revenue the purchase is made with the intention to resell, even though it was a single transaction. Then we saw about shares. If they are acquired and sold as investor, then it is a capital receipt. If it is acquired and sold as a dealer, then it is a revenue receipt, but except foreign institutional investors. Then example for capital receipt, I told you gift, liquidated damages and compensation given to employee by the employer for termination of service. And for revenue receipt, I told you example of sale of stock, rent, interest, salary, etc. Okay, then we came to year concept. In year concept, firstly we saw what is financial year, then we saw what is assessment year. Assessment year is also nothing but a financial year of 12 months starting from 1/4 to 31/3. What is special about assessment year? It is the year in which the income is assessed or income is taxed, and it is the year immediately following the previous year. Now what is the previous year? It is the year in which the income is earned. It is the year immediately previous the assessment year, immediately preceding the assessment year. Generally the previous year is from 1/4 to 31/3. However, if there is a new business or profession, then the previous year will be the date of setting up of business till 31/3, and if there is a new source of income which comes into existence, then the previous year will be from the date in which the source comes into existence till 31/3. Next, previous year for undisclosed sources of income. We saw first section of section 68, that is cash credit. Okay, cash credit means there is an unknown credit which is there in the account which the assessee is unable to explain or not able to give satisfactory explanation. Then this amount is treated as income by the assessing officer as undisclosed source of income. Okay, next section 69, that is unexplained investment, etc. So unexplained investment are the investment for which the assessee cannot offer any explanation or no satisfactory explanation is offered. Such investment are treated as undisclosed sources of income by the assessing officer in the financial year in which the investment is made. Next, section 69A. Any unexplained money, bullion, jewelry or any other valuable article or thing, if it is found out by the assessing officer, it is treated as undisclosed source of income in the year in which it is found, when assessee is not able to offer any explanation or no satisfactory explanation. Then section 69B, investment money, bullion, jewelry or any other valuable article or thing not fully disclosed. So this is a case similar to the previous cases, but here some value is already disclosed, some value is not disclosed. So when the assessing officer finds out that some value is not disclosed, he will ask for explanation. If no explanation or no satisfactory explanation is given by the assessee, he will treat it as undisclosed source of income in the financial year in which it is found. Next, section 69C, unexplained expenditure. If an expenditure is made by the assessee but it cannot be explained to the assessing officer or no satisfactory explanation can be given, then it is treated as income in which the expenditure is incurred and no deduction is also given for such income. Then section 69D tells that borrowing or repayment on hundi should only be through account pay check. If it is not through account pay check, it will be treated as undisclosed sources of income and will be treated as income in the year of borrowing or year of repayment. However, if it is already treated as income in the year of borrowing, it will not be again treated as income in the year of repayment. I hope you are clear with this. Now, all these undisclosed sources of income are taxed at a flat rate of 60% plus 25% surcharge plus 4% health and education cess under section 115 BBE. Okay, so or you get the tax rate at 78%, effective tax rate of 78%. And one more special point, for these undisclosed sources of income, there is no benefit even to individual or HUF. There is no benefit of basic exemption limit. There is no benefit of deduction, and there is no benefit of set off or carry forward of losses. Very, very important. Okay. Then we saw the income of previous year taxed in the previous year itself. So there are 5 cases where previous year and assessment year are the same. What are those 5 cases? Number 1, section 172, non-resident shipping business. That shipping business has come to India and it is going to leave India. Hence the assessing officer thinks that it will not be possible to get the income tax from the shipping business in the next year. So what does he do? He tells the shipping business that you pay you take 7.5 percentage of your freight as your income and pay the tax on that income. Next, section 174, person leaving India with no intention to return back. If assessing officer feels that a person is going to leave India and is not going to come back, he will tax the income of that particular person up to the probable date of departure of that particular person in that year itself. Next, section 174A, association of person, body of individual or artificial juridical person formed for a particular purpose. So if a group of person come together and come for a particular purpose, when the purpose is over, they will dissolve back. Hence, it is very difficult to catch hold of them and collect income tax from them. So, assessing officer comes into the picture and collects tax from such people before their dissolution itself. Okay. Next, section 175. If a person is likely to transfer property to avoid paying the tax, okay, then assessing officer will come and tax that particular income then and there itself. Then section 176, discontinued business. So if a business is going to get discontinued, the assessing officer at his discretion will come and tax the income of the discontinued business in the same year itself up to discontinuation. Okay, so this was the concept of previous year. Now we are coming to the concept of person. In concept of person, firstly we learnt what is assessment. Assessment is the procedure for determining the income by the assessing officer. Okay, it can be normal assessment or a reassessment. Then we saw the meaning of assessee in section 2 clause 7. What is assessee? Assessee is a person by whom the income tax or any other sum under the Income Tax Act is payable. That is point number 1. Point number 2, any proceeding has been initiated for the assessment of his own income or income of some other person in respect of whom he is assessable, or his own loss or such other person's loss, or his own refund or such other person's refund. Assessee is also deemed assessee, and then deemed assessee in default is also called as assessee. So there are 4 cases where a person can be called assessee. Be very thorough with this definition. Then we saw definition 2 clause 31, the definition of person. There are 7 types of person and they are individual, HUF, that is Hindu undivided family. Then number 3, partnership firm including LLP. Number 4, company. Number 5, AOP-BOI, that is Association of Person Body of Individual. Number 6, Local Authority. Number 7, Artificial Juridical Person, that is AJP. Okay, so individual, who is individual? Individual is nothing but human being, natural person. If individual is a minor, then assessment will be made on the guardian. If individual is of unsound mind or individual is a lunatic, then his assessment will be made on the manager. And if the individual is a deceased person, then assessment will be made on legal representative. Fine. Then we saw Hindu undivided family. Hindu undivided family can be Hindus, Jain, Buddhist, Sikh, okay, but it cannot be Muslims or Christians. Hindu undivided family, there is no definition in income tax law, so definition is taken from the Hindu law. Fine. Daughters can also be co-partners in HUF. So in HUF we saw what are Karta, what is member, what is co-partner. The head of the family is called Karta, the members are called members, and the close members who have the right to partition are called co-partners. So now even daughters have the right to partition. But do wives and daughter-in-law have the right to partition? The answer is no, because they have the right to partition in their parental property. You get my point? Then we saw there are two schools of Hindu law, the Dayabhaga school and the Mitakshara school of Hindu law. Dayabhaga school is prevalent in West Bengal and Assam. Mitakshara school is prevalent in the remaining India. Okay, in Dayabhaga school, there is no right to property till the head of the family dies, whereas in Mitakshara, the right is by birth and not by succession. Okay, in Dayabhaga school, father and brothers will be co-partners. Children will be co-partners only after the father's death. But in Mitakshara school, even children are the co-partners. Fine. Then we saw the meaning of company. Company includes 4 points. Number 1, Indian company. Number 2, body corporate under any law. Example, Facebook. Number 3, assessee who was assessed as company under the Income Tax Act 1922 before 1/4/1970. And number 4, whether incorporated or not, whether Indian or not, if an organization is declared by CBDT to be a company, then that person will also become company under the Income Tax Act. Then we saw what is the meaning of Indian company. Indian company na enna? Indian company is a company that is registered under the Companies Act 1956 or 2013, and it has registered office in India. Okay, then Indian company also includes any organization that is declared by CBDT to be an Indian company, and companies that are formed by the central government or state government or union territories in their respective laws. We saw the example of State Road Transport Corporation. Fine. So we saw the meaning of Indian company. Now there are two classes of companies. They are domestic company and foreign company. Foreign company, very easy. A foreign company is a company that is not a domestic company. So what is a domestic company? Domestic company can be of two types. Number 1, Indian company is always a domestic company. Number 1, Indian company is always a domestic company. And number 2, a company which has made arrangement to declare dividend and pay dividend in India out of the income earned in India is also called a domestic company. Who is a domestic company? Number 1, Indian company is always a domestic company, and number 2, a company which has made arrangements to declare and pay dividend in India out of the income taxable in India is also called a domestic company. Fine. So there are two types of domestic company. Be very careful. Then we saw firm. Section 2 clause 23 defines firm, and firm includes LLP. Now the meaning of firm and LLP are not given in the income tax law. They have to be derived from the Partnership Act 1932 and LLP Act 2008 respectively. Now Income Tax Act says that a minor will be considered a partner if he is admitted for the benefits of the partnership firm. Fine. Then we saw the meaning of association of person and body of individual. Association of person is a group of person who have not formed a partnership firm. If partnership firm is formed, then they will go into the firm category. If there is no firm, then they will come in AOP category. Okay, so a group of persons is AOP. However, a group of individuals is called BOI. Okay, so a person other than an individual can never form body of individuals. Purida. Next difference, AOP is joined for a common purpose to produce an income. So for a common purpose, all the AOPs or the members will come together and they will be earning that particular income. For example, co-heirs, co-legatees and co-donees, because they are receiving the income and they will be using the income. Whereas body of individuals merely receive the income. For example, executors and trustees. You get my point? Next we saw local authorities. For local authority, I told you example as Coimbatore Municipal Corporation. What is a local authority? It means authority which has control or management of a municipal or local fund. If a local authority is supplying in its own jurisdiction, then on the profit it need not pay any income tax. However, if it is supplying outside jurisdiction, except water and electricity, it has to pay income tax. Okay, then I also told you, since local authority is specifically given, it means that wantedly central government and state government are kept outside the purview of person. Hence, central government and state government are not persons and there will not be any income tax on central government and state government. Next, artificial juridical person or AJP. If a person is not falling under any other category above, then they will come in the category of AJP or artificial juridical person. The examples are idol or deity, that is statues of God also, then universities and the bar council is also a AJP. We saw explanation to section 2 clause 31 which says AOP and BOI are considered a person even if they are not formed for earning income. So income earn pandradhukaga AOP BOI form panlana kuda they will be considered as person under the Income Tax Act. So this was the revision of the first chapter, that is basic concepts. I hope you are clear and thorough with the first chapter. So in the next revision video, I'll see you there. Till then, take care. Bye bye.